All right, it's Breeders' Cup 2019 here with Super Screener author Mike Shutty. And one of our favorite videos every year, Mike, is the favorites to toss. So this year, I understand you've got 5 favorites for us to try to beat in the 14 Breeders' Cup races. Can't wait to hear what you've got and which ones we can attack again.
Here we go. Yeah, it's as you said, Mark. It's so important in these races. They're big full fields, big potential payouts, and you can't bet everybody. So it's important, obviously, to find the long shots. Pick winners, of course, but even as important to stand against horses that most people will include on their tickets. They're therefore giving you an advantage. And of course, these are marquee names. These are horses that everybody knows. And so it's a very emotional thing. But the top 5 are quite interesting. I'll start with the least controversial to the most. So Elate, she's
Wow.
it's like she's pointed to the classic. Certainly has done nothing wrong. Midnight Bisou, kind of her arch rival there. But she really needs the extra ground. This year, the distaff's at 1 1/8 at Santa Anita, so that prompted the decision, and I think her farewell race here to go to the Classic. Now, of course, McKinsey will be the favorite. There's some distance questions there, so she may have a little bit of a distance advantage. But when we've looked at all the Super Screener criteria, it doesn't matter that she's a mare. It just simply matters of how does she run her races, how does she distribute her energy, and how will she handle this pace setup relative to the other contestants. And she scores okay. Certainly could be a board hitter, maybe at the very bottom of the superfecta. But we know she's going to probably be the second or third favorite in this race. But we're pretty strong stand against as she makes her swan song. Also, it's interesting to note, horses that are ready to retire, they haven't done so well when they've run their final race in the Breeders' Cup. Part of that is, don't use the horse. We've got to save them for the breeding shed. But so that's one that's maybe not as controversial, but certainly one I think people will include on a lot of tickets where they really probably don't need to.
Great.
The other one is Chancelot. Here's a horse that is just a speedball. Really burned it up earlier this summer at Saratoga. I'm not sure if that horse broke a record, but in running that race certainly looked like he did. And then he'll probably be known in a trivia question of who did Omaha Beach defeat in the comeback race?
Right.
And it was this horse. Here's the challenge with this horse. He's lost his last 2 races, finishing second. But he was all in on both of those races. I mean, all in.
Right.
And that was coming off that huge race earlier in the summer. When you look at that, we've got probably a horse that is not ready to peak and ascend from those incredible races. You've got a horse who's probably submitted his best this year and probably should take a break. And you've got the long ship, so that's a stand against. Interestingly enough, in that same race, Imperial Hint is also going to be a stand against for us for the win spot, potentially even the exacta. We'll figure that out over the weekend. But here's a 6-year-old, and that's the key here. A 6-year-old that is, does their best when they are lightly raced and they pick their spots. This horse now has run 2 huge races, really big races. Essentially, one of them, the all-time lifetime top for this horse, who's run now for 4 years. That horse is going to be over the top, as we're projecting, and will not submit a race close to those last 2. Runs a great race, loves this distance. Don't leave that horse off your tickets underneath, but stand against in the win spot.
Wow, those are huge because I mean the sprint every year is such a difficult race to handicap with so many potential contenders. To be able to fade those 2 is really interesting.
Yeah, and you think about it, they're they're going to be horses that are single digits or less for sure when it comes to this race. So if you can get them out of the win spot, this starts to become a very interesting wagering race. In addition, we have Magical. Magical's done nothing wrong in Europe. I mean, the only horse that Magical couldn't beat was Enable. And Magical came here last year in the turf and was clearly second best, chasing Enable and really distancing the rest of that, very salty field. So, they say the horse is going to run in the filly and mare, but their first preference was turf. I think this horse will end up in the filly and mare turf race after this very, very condensed late season. It's kind of like there's kind of a what the heck, let's go for it type attitude, magical. And again, forwardly placed types don't typically excel here. But the bigger concern is this is the horse's fourth race in 7 weeks. I mean, that's phenomenal. And then doing not just getting over to New York, but flying all the way to Santa Anita. That's a lot to ask of any mare, no matter how great, or filly, no matter how great they are. So she's up against it, and I think obviously she'll be bet down hard. And of course, Chad Brown, if it's filly and mare turf, he's got something to say about that race.
Right.
So that rivalry continue. But that's a major stand against for us. I think it's just too much, asking this horse to do too much.
Okay.
Last, Kofefe. This horse is going to be extremely popular. She will definitely be the odds-on favorite in the filly and mare sprint. And that's coming off that lifetime top she submitted last out, just crushing horses. She's learned to, press and come a little bit off the pace, which is, really an asset. There's nothing wrong with those races at all. What's wrong is that historically, based on our super screener criteria, that if you're a 3-year-old and a bit precocious, and you've submitted races that were so huge as this one did last out, historically, those are horses to really stand against at very, very low odds.
Wow.
Sort of the same thing with Magical. You're asking this horse to do too much. And you remember we've had some of these in the past where it was controversial, but we stood against them, didn't even put them in the trifecta, and it helped with some decent paydays.
We were talking about a few years back at Churchill Downs, Turbulent Descent was the now filly, the 3-year-old filly, and she was, I think, 6 or 8 lifetime, went in as a big, big favorite in the filly mare sprint and didn't hit the board.
No, not at all. So she's kind of come in that same pattern, and it's actually a very specific super screener criteria. It's that 3-year-old that's essentially just submitted a huge lifetime top, just because there's been so many occurrences of that.
Right. All right, great. Well, those are 5. Those are great insights on 5 favorites to stand against in the 14 races. Can't wait, and looking forward to Breeders' Cup. Wish it was here already.
Yeah, me too. Week to go, but we'll get there.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks.